You're watching Forget Being Cool.
In the back seat of my cab, we were touching each other's bodies.
Welcome to listening in, the place where music checks in.
Hi, Josh.
Hey, Dave.
Welcome to listening in.
Where music checks in.
That's exactly how we need to do that. Anyway, Josh.
Patent pending.
Yes, still pending. Man, I've got to ask you this before we get into it. What in the world? Why did you pick this? It's almost like your lights are doing exactly what this album was doing. Tell me where the inspiration, where you found this, why you picked this.
Well,
it's fascinating to me.
Well, for those of you that are not familiar with synthwave, you're about to be. Today we're taking a look at the debut studio album from Chilean-born, Montreal-based DJ Cristobal Cortez, who goes by the performing name Das Mörtal. And I'm legitimately surprised that I gave this a shot because
this is the most pulled out of nowhere, obscure thing I've probably ever listened to.
For me, I heard of this came out in 2017, and I was familiar with this record last year when it did come out because, I followed this thing in Canada called the Polaris Music Prize, which I thought that this album had at least a shot at getting onto the long list, which is like a set of 40 albums that are considered to be the best, quote-unquote, subjective, obviously, albums that Canadian musicians have put out. But this is definitely synthwave for this album, Always Loved. It is, the album art gets your attention right away.
Oh,
it's equal parts beautiful and slightly not safe for work.
And disturbing a little bit. Just, if you start thinking about it, you're like, where am I? What is this? Are these...
I think it's pretty beautiful, to be honest. You've got...
It's pretty, but then like the colors make it have like this weird dark tone of like weird science fiction 80s synth. I don't know. It's very bizarre. And the best part is trying to find, like, Spotify shows you like the clean version, which is just a slight variation, removing like one thing. And then like you try to find it anywhere else and it's not the clean version. Here's my take on this, Josh. I quite enjoyed this album. My issue lies in the fact that I can't remember a single track by name, by, like I'll recognize it once it starts playing, and I almost wish they would remove all the samples except for the dial-up tones.
Oh, I'm so glad you picked up on that. So, yeah, Dark Alley Intercourse is one of my favorite tracks on Always Love because near the end, it actually takes the dial-up sample and it actually chops and screws it in such a way that you would not expect it to fit that beat, but it does.
And it does. And it lots of people have sampled those sounds. The dial-up, AOL, you've got mail sounds like multiple times. They've been doing it forever. But this album took it in that track and fit it in so well that it was like, if you didn't know what that was, you would just assume it was a really cool way to add like sounds to this already weird thing. Josh, it's the VOs, it's the voices that they like ruin the catchiness, classical tones of like these songs. Like they're very synth, but it seems to lend itself from classical music, like seems to pull from that kind of style of music.
I can kind of see that. However, for me, they don't bother me that much. I think on Backseat Love Affair and Dark Alley Intercourse, well, Dark Alley Intercourse is just meant to basically set up the scene. And that's another one of the strengths of this album is that it really does use the beats and it uses production really well to just set a scene and let your mind do the rest. And a lot of this album, it does feel like it's equal parts inspired by stuff like Tron and Blade Runner. And this could easily fit. I mean, one of his earlier projects was an EP called Hotline Miami 2. And this is the kind of music I imagine playing when you play a game like one of the Hotline Miami games or Far Cry Blood Dragon or something that's kind of very dystopian, cyberpunky as well. This could actually fit really well in like a nighttime level in a cyberpunk when that comes out.
No, it's a very cool cyber futuristic, but like futuristic for what we thought the 80s would be futuristic kind of
Yeah,
style.
so what Ready Player One soundtrack should be.
That I would agree actually with that. I would agree 100% with that. It's the weird ones, Josh, where they're like in the back seat of my cab, we were touching each other's bodies. I know.
Well, that's it. Makes it's the album's like sleek and sexy and sensual.
But it
like,
crosses the line from cheese. It crosses the line from being sexy to cheesy. Like that's what it does for me. And I know that other people will feel differently, but moments like that, well, that's Kiss. Like, just make me like giggle like a little bit inside.
I mean, look, in all fairness, I could see how that would kind of take you out of the song a little bit. I'd say, while I like the beat on Youth Escape, the lyrics are just kind of like na 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 na, and it's basically just it's like my mom left, my dad left. I'm just kind of on my own. I don't really care about your shit and all that. So some of the lyrics, it kind of needs work. I like the opener just because it's basically the French Fox, who actually is one half of the management team that actually run the record label Lisbon Lux that this album came out on. It's basically just describing this guy literally just getting ready to go out to a club and what he does at the club. It's simple. It's obviously very straightforward, and it's literally describing what the character's doing. But I think in some cases with some of these tracks, the music videos, because there were a few that came out for this album.
I tried to find those too, and I found that extremely difficult to find. A lot of them had like,
I don't know, man. We
cool,
must have
like,
different YouTube results.
I mean, it's Canadian YouTube versus American YouTube, maybe.
The superior one.
Oh, yes, the US YouTube.
Well, just as broken, but slightly better.
But it's super cool. Like, seriously, if this is something that you guys have not listened to, like if you're not into synth, like this is where it does it right for me. This is the kind of music that it lends from that catchiness, and it never repeats itself too much to the point where I got annoyed. I was very worried. I will tell you this, Josh. The first day you sent me this album and said, "Listen to this," and I was like, "Okay." And I pulled it up on Spotify to make sure I can get it. And I pull it up. I'm like, "Oh God, what has he picked? Like, what in the world have I gotten myself into?" But I did quite enjoy it. I'm glad you picked this. My biggest issues lie in the fact that I can't remember the tracks for the life of me. The names don't stick out. They don't.
I'm about to provide a counterpoint to that.
Okay.
The track "Risking My Life," which features another Canadian electronic duo in Ghost Twin. Although, crazy thought, I just imagine that this was like Lady Gaga still in her electropop days, and that was her singing, because the singer does sound a lot like Lady Gaga.
I like the singing. I like the lyrics. It's some of the weird samples that kind of seem to cross my line of weird. Let's kiss.
I thought the samples on Jennifer, where I think it's about a minute 25 in, it almost sounded like they were playing some kind of twin stick shooter, like a Space Invaders or a Galaga or something. It sounded like pew pew pews.
I would
little
agree,
bit.
but I think Jennifer might be my least favorite track on the album.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I almost mixed up some of the tracks on here. I almost mixed up Jennifer with Youth Escape because
But see, that's the problem. That's the only problem. Like, it's super cool. Lots of it's really catchy. It's really neat. It never crosses the line of repetitive annoyance that some of this genre does. But at the same time, it doesn't stay memorable. It's not rememberable. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Dave. If any of you out there are looking for definitely some like cinematic synthwave, like for me, Always Loved is I say quasi-conceptual because I like to think of it as it follows someone, like two people that meet at a club and they get to know each other in a cab, and then Bedtime Intimacy is also really neat because it has those very dreamy synths that definitely it sets a good mood for, it's a song to listen to late at night and, think about stuff.
It is a very romantic album in a very weird sexualized way the cover is, I think.
The strangest thing is that I think on, is it Backseat Love Affair? I think on one or two tracks here, there are some slight dubstep influences, but it's not like actual dubstep. It just has those sounds that you would associate with the wubs, but they're very quick and they disappear and with enough time to go back to the more synthwave stuff. And I also pick up a bit of New Order influence as well.
Those fit very well. They feel as if they belong in this, and it's very good. I hope you pick something as awesome as this for next week, Josh. That was...
Don't put too much pressure on me. One last thing.
Yes.
The last part of Final Survivor Girl, the penultimate track before this outro, I got a little bit of I think it was it Equinox, First of the Year by Skrillex, the one that's like, call 911 or... well, whichever had that sample of like, call 911.
Yeah.
Because they were like, stop, oh my God. Or so, it reminded me of that. But I'm definitely glad I was able to get someone outside of Canada to enjoy this record. And if you're at all interested, Lisbon Lux Records has this album for sale, and it has 2 vinyl-only bonus tracks, but it's basically just 2 halves of an interlude, so you don't need to get it to enjoy it. And I appreciate that this album exists, because especially that album art lets you know what you're in for, but this thing isn't that long, so give it a shot.
Yeah, no, give it a shot. Absolutely. I know that I sound like it's a little weird, but seriously, this is an album worth listening to. It's DOS Mörtal Always Loved. Josh, thanks for giving me an album. And guys, thank you for checking in with us. If you guys want our links, of course, to listen to this on Spotify, wherever else you can get it, all those links in the description, as well as our future songs on our playlist and all that stuff. So check the description. That's got stuff in it. Check it out. Guys, we'll see you next week.
For more great discussions, hit that subscribe button or visit forgetbeingcool.com.